Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. And this platform was created by Black women for Black women so that we can change the conversations and assist every Black woman in owning, honoring, and executing her amazing. I am Crystal Gunn, your host. And before we get started with the topics, let's see who we have here with us today. So let me turn it over to my BFF and co-host, Michelle. Take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and I am excited to be here for yet another conversation of us unpacking the bullshit bar. My name is Michelle Harper. I am the Director of Diversity for Evident Change and the owner and operator of Agency Fitness, LLC, where we invite every single woman to own and operate inside of her agency. I'm excited one more time to be in the company of some dope women. We're going to have this conversation yet again where we challenge you to dive a little deeper and think about what it means to unpack, dismantle, and disrupt the bullshit bar. I'm excited to be sitting in the company of some, again, really dope women, and I'd like to invite into this conversation for introduction my friend Carly.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
My name is Carly Britton. I am a Detroiter. I'm currently the Development Event Officer at the Detroit Institute of Arts, and I also own Diligent Fitness, a virtual fitness membership community, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. We also have in the room this evening, Talisa. Come on in and introduce yourself.
Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. My name is Talisa Cohen. I am a realtor and the owner and founder of Power Moves Real Estate Holdings Group, where we focus on empowering the community, especially to drive the numbers of home ownership amongst first-time homeowners, and also for those people who own real estate, that they know how to leverage that property, that asset that they have taken and invested in. So I am very happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So all of last month we were talking about that bullshit bar, and today we're going to talk about that moniker, that strong Black woman moniker, right? And some would argue, absolutely, we have to be a strong Black woman. Others will argue, no, we got to throw that term out the window, because there's definitely two sides of that coin. One of those sides is yes, because we make it happen. We have to do what we have to do. But the other side of that is we make it happen. We do what we have to do, but it's killing us. So the question becomes, can there be balance? Is there such thing as balance? And so let's dig a little deeper as Michelle gets us started with unpacking.
Absolutely. So before we dive into this question, we invite you, Facebook, into this conversation. Utilize the chat. Drop your questions. Drop your thoughts. We will invite you in as we get into this conversation. It is important that we hear from you and you help share your thoughts and ideas on killing the strong Black woman. So, Carly, Talisa, as you begin to think about all of the ways in which we do the things that we do unapologetically, without question, when was the moment, that defining moment, when you recognized that doing all of the things was costing you a price you could no longer pay, be it physically, emotionally, spiritually? I thought of you, Carly, when we thought about having this conversation, because when I watch you on Diligent Fitness, you always talk about it doesn't require all of the things, right? Sometimes showing up is the victory. What was that moment for you that you recognized that I'm killing myself in ways that is not helping me, my spouse, my children, when I keep pushing beyond?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was a college athlete, so coming into fitness as an adult, I had that same sort of mindset. It's like, you have to show up every day, you have to work super hard every day, you have to go hard. And it wasn't until probably I had my second child, who's only 4 at this point. I'm thinking back to, he was a very small child. I was still waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out. I injured myself very badly. I was still waking up at 5 o'clock to work out. And so, like, at some point I was like, what? And I remember actually when I did injure myself pretty badly, someone asked me, so you must have taken a while off of work. And I was like, oh, I actually didn't take time off work when that happened. So at some point along in these 4 years, it was just kind of like, it actually doesn't take all of this to be fit and to be healthy. And so that's something that I try to really emphasize with Diligent Fitness is the victory is showing up consistently, but it doesn't mean that when you're tired or when you have other obligations that you can't take care of that. And so I think it's been a process because, like I said, as a college athlete, it's just go hard all the time. And it's been hard for me to drop that. But at some point in these last 4 years, it was like, okay, so I will admit I'm the first one to say my house is messy a lot because I have 2 small kids. I have a full-time job. I have a business. I have a husband. And there's so much to do all the time. And, you know, I know that in the Black community, like having a clean house and cooking and being this, like, robust mother is, like, the thing. But I'm like, my house looks like trash right now. And there's nothing I can do. I can't. So I don't even try. You know, it's sometimes it's hard and it gets to me. But I do have, my husband is great. He's like our cook. So I have to give that to him and let him manage that because that's what that's the role he sort of stepped into. And I tap into, like, you know, the fact that he's there. But I've had to give up a lot of my expectations of, like, what my house looks like. And, like, my kids, maybe they don't take a bath tonight. Maybe they take it in the morning. Like, just letting go of what all the routine that's supposed to be and making it fit for what works for me.
That's part of that bullshit bar.
Yeah. Right.
We have to wear this. We have to do this. And it's funny that you said, Michelle, why you invited Carly, because that's the exact same reason I invited Talisa. Like, I watch you do all of these incredible things from, you know, working, job, kids, and I'm like, how... when is enough? And well, first of all, where's the balance and how do you do it?
I'm not really sure how. I'm like, most of the times I'm running on like autopilot, honestly. And I know that before it was just sheer drive where it's like, you know, I have to show up. People are counting on me. I've obligated myself to do these things, so I have to be present. And so that hasn't changed, but my focus has changed, or who I am committing myself to has changed a bit. And for 2 reasons. Like, there were a couple of different occasions that were like aha moments for me. Like, one day I was sitting and I had my journal out, my notebook, and I'm writing my to-do list for the next day. And like, this is a full-size notebook, like, you know, what our kids use in school. And so one task for each line. But I had filled up one sheet of paper and I flipped it over and was still writing task. And this is for the next day. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm getting too granular, even though, like, I really wasn't. And so then once I stopped writing, I went back to look at the list, and I'm looking at how much of it was for me and how much of it was for my children or my household. And a lot of it was for my employer. At the time, I was dual career, so I was working as an IT program manager as well as running my real estate business. So I'm like, I'm doing all these things, and they were for sorority, they were for my employer, a few things were for my business, a few things were for my children, but it was just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, God, dog, I don't even know how I'm going to finish all this. And I know, like, oftentimes I'm zapped by the end of the day, like pass out tired. Mm-hmm. And then there was another incident that happened. I don't want to get too deep or mushy, but I had an incident where I lost a baby, and I'm in the hospital and recovering through that whole process. I having to have a blood transfusion, but I brought my laptop with me. I brought my laptop with me, and I logged on because I'm like, I got to create these reports. Like, you know, this was kind of like all of a sudden. I hadn't given any forewarning. Like, I don't want the company to, like, for the ball to be dropped. So let me get on and do these reports. That same company, like maybe 4 months later after I had returned to work, ushered me out the door.
Right.
like, your services are no longer needed. So I'm like, what? Like, do you know what I've given to this company? Like, my whole youth. I'm in the hospital, and nobody cares. So, like, those were wake-up moments for me. And then, I guess, lastly, my oldest son, he's 22. He is going through the growing pains of becoming a young man and learning his way through life, navigating his way through life. And I'm super passionate about financial empowerment and mentoring to people, to young students. I tutor, I mentor, I do all these things. And my son is like, having these trials that he's going through, and like he had a moment where he came to me, he's like, man, I just didn't know, nobody told me these things. And I know that I've told him these things in short, maybe even in passing, but I wasn't doing a good job of checking back in with him and making sure that my household was solid. So all those things combined like really made me take a step back and reevaluate who I was committing my time to. I mean, and I'm still passionate about doing things. I still serve the community, still service clients and run my business, but I definitely have a new focus on making sure home is good.
Right. So somewhere along the line, somebody introduced us to this work-life balance, right? Like there's got to be this even, right? Like, what are we doing here? It says that in order to be defined as a person who's got it together, you should be able to do these things in balance, right? Okay. So that was our permission to leave the home and to get back into the work world, but you had to find this balance, right? And we all know that that's not even possible. Right? So much like Talisa lifted up, she's trying to find this balance and she gets back to work and they're saying deuces, right? So when we decide that the balance is something that's not created for us, right? Like, once again, the bullshit buyer, we keep trying to chase what society has told us is not for us. And we're trying to find this balance. Being able to tip those scales, right? And then how people view us. When we decide to prioritize self first, right? When we decide to take that venture and push out for something that we want to do, that balance, what does that really look like? And how do we break against you're being seen as less than, right? You're being seen as not strong enough because you chose you, right? Like, what does that look like for you? How does that show up for you? Right? At what point are we no longer willing to allow it to cost us a message that your son missed, right? Being okay that the house is going to be messy. Like, it just is what it is. I'm done allowing it to cost me something that wasn't designed for me to pay in the first place.
So, Michelle, I'm going to ask you to answer that question because I always say that you're my, like, she-ro. Like, I don't even know how she does all that she does throughout the day. And house look like it's a show place. Like, I just don't.
I'm guilty, right? Yep. So some of these conversations are designed for me as well. So really, and I've been paying attention to that lately because I bought into, and I think I said this last week, that it was my season, right? Like, it's my season to pour in and to stretch. And my daughter, my youngest, reminded me, a season doesn't last a year. It's time to back on out. Right? And do something for you. And so I'm trying to pay attention to that. This conversation was designed for me too. Thank you very much, Crystal Gunn.
I'm
just saying.
I was going to say, because Michelle just said something that made me think, like, there are all these messages that are promoted, like, where we got to keep our heads down and like work, push. And then it's like, this is my season and I have to do this. Don't quit, just do it. Like, all these different messages that make you feel like if you do take a break, then somehow you're quitting on yourself or quitting on your vision. So I don't know if we'll get to that part in the conversation, but.
well, we just got to that part.
Right? Like, I really had to re-examine again my mindset and my thought process and what it meant to be this strong Black woman, what it meant to be successful. And it doesn't mean like working tirelessly until like you have nothing left. I've come to realize that it means to work with purpose. And as long as you like the things that you're doing, the time that you're investing away from home, or if you're incorporating a family, whatever that is, however we're spending our time, that we're seeing the fruits of that labor. And it's not that we have to wait a year or 2 years or 3 years to see that come to fruition, but we should see it daily. Right. And like that's what refuels me. Like I can see the impact that I'm having like on a daily basis.
And I think you mentioned earlier running on that auto drive and or autopilot. And when we run on autopilot, don't we miss the moments? Like we're missing what life really is about because we got to make sure we're checking off all of this these 2-page lists that we have of tasks. And like Sydney said weeks ago, who said that? Like who said that?
They?
Right.
Who is the they?
And the they is the people that want us to come in and do the work so that they can have the moments, right? So that they can sit back. But what happens when we keep doing this is the inner turmoil, the stress, which then turns into illness, and eventually you're gonna have to sit down. I had a ruptured appendix, and someone said to me, and my appendix actually ruptured, right? And that, I don't know if it's just me being anti-doctor or strong black woman, because when they said you need to have surgery, I was like, nah, I don't want that. And the surgeon was like, but you will die if you don't have that because your vitals are tanking right now. You will absolutely die. But after I got out of the hospital and I was talking to a friend of mine and he said, I can't believe that you're resting. And I was like, well, I didn't have a choice, but never, and I was out for 6 weeks, and never ever would I have given myself permission to not work for 6 weeks. Right. I could not do anything.
I'm shaking.
But we how often do we go through that and just not give ourselves permission to say, you know what, I'm just gonna walk with my bare feet in the grass today, and the things that don't get done today, they still gonna be here tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. It's like something like, just like what I mentioned about being really injured and not taking time off work and not even thinking about taking time off work until somebody was like, oh, you must have taken a lot of time off. And I was like, actually, I didn't take any. And it's like, why? Why didn't I even think to do that? I was in so much pain. I had a new baby, and I don't know why the first thought wasn't, I'm about to take off work. So one thing that's been super helpful for me in starting my business, which I feel like is has made me a new person. I feel like I've invested a lot of money in coaching, and I have a coach who's a black woman who's who I've been working with, and she's been very instrumental in me thinking about automating systems so that I'm not in all the little details of my business. So making sure that things are happening behind the scenes that I have set up, but not on a daily basis I'm not managing. So that's been super helpful. But she's also like, all right, so what month in this summer are you going to take off? And I was like, what do you mean? My business is new, I'm not taking off work. She goes, no, we need to take some time off work. So let's plan, let's set it up so that you can take off August. And so we've been working on that, and just helping me set things in motion so that I'm not always present, but my business is still sort of running, which has been difficult for me. But I take comfort in knowing that she's been where I'm trying to go. And so it's been helpful hearing her say, how are you going to automate this so that you don't have to do it yourself every time? How are you going to rest? When's your rest time? Let's schedule that in. And I've been like, what do you mean? And so it's been really hard for her to convince me that like it's okay to do it. But I'm grateful that she has, because otherwise I would have never, some of the stuff she has me doing, I'm like, I would have never thought to do this on my own.
So that's this August that you're supposed to take?
I'm supposed to take off of Diligent Fitness.
Right.
Now, my other job is a different story.
Right.
But yes.
For a whole month?
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be good to see.
So one of the things, Carl, I'm going to tell you about the BFF, don't ever say anything in front of her that you don't want to be held accountable to, that you don't ever want to put into motion, right? So you'll hear from her to ensure that you're doing the things,
I'm worried.
right? It's that accountability to make sure that we're practicing the things that keep us here one more day. So come on, Facebook, we want to hear from you. Drop your questions in the chat. Drop your comments in the chat. We really want to invite you into this conversation. So I want to take a little bit of a pivot. Carter, you did something not a while ago, that really moved me to be thinking about the way in which we get loyal to certain pieces of our jobs, right? That they don't give that loyalty back,
No.
right? And so I don't know if it was a podcast you saw, the TED Talk that you saw, where you went into your office and you did something different, right? That's going to set us up from not having to be present in a way for something that's not going to be present for us, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Ooh, I might start crying. I have really found that I started my business very accidentally. Didn't intend to do it at all. But it's really become something I feel like is my calling. Like the Lord has really said, this is something that I want you to really walk forward in. So I found that like my job is, it's fine, it's great, but there's something more for me to be doing with my life than that. So I was watching Instagram one day. Tabitha Brown was on a show with a guest or whatever. Someone had written into the show that asked about pursuing her passion. She's a mother and she wants to pursue her dreams and whatever else she said. She's at a dead-end job. And she was asking Tabitha if it was foolish for her to be feeling like she should walk away from that. And Tabitha Brown basically was like, of course not. God puts it inside of you for a reason. She said, I tell anybody who has sort of a job, but they want to be doing their passion, I tell them to go into their space, clear it of anything personal, take pictures, take anything that's personal out of that space, and you're telling that space, you're telling that atmosphere, I don't belong here. And anybody can come and sit in your space because you're not tied to it, and it's not holding you. So I listened to that several times, and I didn't think anything of it. But the next time I was in the office, I'm just sitting at my desk, and I was like, and I just started taking my baby's pictures down. I took everything off, my children's pictures. They had come to my job a couple times and they colored, and I took all that down. Anything that was my face on it, anything my husband had sent me flowers, I had those notes up, everything. I just took everything down and I started crying in my office. Well, I was there alone, thank God, but I was crying because I was so thankful that I feel like the Lord had given me this new lease on life, that I was pursuing Diligent Fitness because it was gonna offer me wealth, but not in like a monetary sense, but in a way that I can choose how my life looks. And with this job, I can't really do that, but I can choose. There's so much that can come from this, and so I just felt so encouraged and so blessed. And I don't know when I'm gonna be able to walk away from that, but that's my goal. And so I cleared everything, and it's so funny because there was a new girl starting that's supposed to be sort of working with me, and she came over. She's like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Minding.
I wanted to be like, you about to get this job because I'm leaving. But it was very symbolic for me. I think that's why I cried, because I was just so thankful. I felt like the Lord was like, all right, I'm gonna work this out for you. And so I felt very inspired by her saying that, and I didn't intend to do it, but it just kind of like hit me when I was sitting there, and I was like, oh yeah, this is all coming down. So I felt good. And then I remember texting you because I had been talking to you about it so much, about this time in my life and everything, how much it means to me to be moving to this new person I feel like I'm becoming. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to kill off some things, right? Yeah. In order to get there, you have to kill off some things and be obedient, right, to what you're being led to, and be willing to be vulnerable in that moment to recognize, right, like this is a chapter that I'm being told it's time to start closing it because your greater is in front of you. And the vulnerability that comes with that, and recognizing that in this moment, the world may see me as being weak. The world may not understand what I'm doing, but I'm no longer willing, right? Because again, the cost is too high. And we keep paying something again that wasn't designed for us to begin with, right? Like that's how this whole conversation started between Crystal and I. We keep chasing something that was never designed for us, and we chase it hard, and we chase it at the cost of our lives, at the cost of relationships that matter the most, right? And so as parents, as mothers, like that resonates with us really, really well if we just sit back and just think about it, right? Like we want better for our children. We want them to be able to show up however we need them to show up, however they want to show up, and it not cost them. And so if we don't start practicing those things now, where will they learn it, right? And so we have to be obedient to that thing. We have to recognize that when they walk me out of the door, Talisa, right? It's the thank you, right? Like I'm gonna find the thank you in that because you helped me do maybe the thing that I was struggling to do myself. I'm gonna disconnect from something, right? Like we give and we give and we give with no return, right?
It absolutely. It took me a very long time to kind of get over, that whole ordeal, because so much of myself, I just tied my identity to that position and that company needing me and the people who I was servicing. That was who I was. And so, to not be there, and I'm like, they don't value me? Am I not the rock star that I thought I was? So,
you got me out here questioning myself.
Questioning, like Cardi B said, you got me looking in the mirror different. But it absolutely was a thank you. And I have been contemplating for a while, actually, making that move and looking outside of the company, not necessarily going 100% freelance for myself, but looking at the job market to see what else was out there, because I had been with the company for so long. But I would always talk myself out of it. It was never a good time. I was comfortable there, so it definitely was a thank you moment. And now being on the other side of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have left a long time ago because, all of what I'm able to do now, I could have been doing then. And, time, value of money.
Right.
And I think faith has to play a huge part in that too, because ever since you were in kindergarten, in grade school, it was, go to school, go to college, get a job. Go to school. And, the people that are telling you that are the people that want you to come work for them. And it's been ingrained so much that we then don't even have to, we don't have to hear it from someone else now. It's just ingrained in us to do, but always at the detriment of something in someone else that really, I think you said it, it's far more important than that job and those things. And I'm not saying everybody go out and quit their job. Right. I am not saying that. However, I think we do have to take that self-evaluation and say, is this really, when I'm on that deathbed, is and I look back, did I do this thing that I was supposed to do, or did I hide and give up and stay? And everybody is not like Michelle, who absolutely loves her job. I can't name 5 people that say that, right?
I loved my job, and even my other, my real estate business I love, but my other career I love, and that was the struggle. That's the struggle for me, because it's I love what I do, and people are like, well, why do you do so much? I'm like, I love all of it. What do you mean, why do I do it? 'Cause I love it.
That makes two.
Right, yeah, I'm like, okay, I think I need to quit asking people because, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like it's not, for me, it's come down to there's so much that matters more than this. It's starting to feel a little unfulfilling in a lot of ways. And this is, like I said, this is this new me that I'm watching unfold in front of my eyes. Who are you? My husband asked me that the other day, actually. He's like, who are you? But I mean, it's true, because I feel like things that matter don't anymore.
Right.
What matters to me is having the freedom to pick my children up from school, because now it's not even a thing where I'm supposed to send my kids to a gym to sit for 2 hours while I work. That doesn't even feel worth it to me. It doesn't feel good. So I'm looking for, in this new person, in this new transition, just freedom to do what matters to me. Pick my children up from school, be able to go to their activities and not miss, anything if I choose not to. So I think another thing that my coach has had us do was read a book that I never would have picked up ever. You Are a Badass at Making Money. And the premise of that book is defining what wealth means to you. And it means, for me, it means freedom to do what it is what I want to do. And I know that doesn't mean minus the responsibility of life and things like that, but just deciding what you would like to do with your life, and not having some outside force make those decisions for you feels a lot better to me. And I think it's mostly because I never saw myself as an entrepreneur before, like ever. And so this new world that I feel like I'm looking into, it is far more intriguing than anything that I thought I would have. So I'm just really grateful for like these open eyes, because now what matters to me is my boys being able to say that they could depend on their mommy to be there. And that's probably another thing that is like, they also have a father that's present. So like letting some of that pressure off myself too, because daddy can help.
Right.
So it's always a certain, you come to a certain point where like of knowing, and then it's like, but there's more. So I'm like happy that I'm in this place of like constant, I don't want to say balancing, because I don't know, maybe it's more harmonizing, like figuring out
That's better.
how these things can fit. Sometimes the kids are cool and like you can do more of this, and then sometimes this is not cool, and like, you have to just like put puzzle pieces together as you need to. The kids will demand more at times, your job will demand more at times, and it's just figuring out how those things sort of fit together.
I love that. So changing the conversation from the work-life balance to the work-life harmony, right? Knowing you have to lean in and lean out, dependent on, right? And so you even backed away, Carly, from even saying, not that I would throw it all away, right? Throw it all away. But what if, right? So we don't even evaluate risk to that degree when our white counterparts get to do that, right? Like, what would it be like if it was really killing me to walk away from all of it, right? So after 24 years, I left state government, right? When I got to state government, people don't just leave that job, right?
Get some applause for that.
Right, to join a nonprofit where there was not the security, right? Like, what is this going to cost me? Then I had to evaluate, what is it going to cost me to stay, right? And so what price am I willing to pay? One that's going to get me closer to a legacy, right? And legacy may not come in the form of millions and wealth and that kind of thing, but I bet you that every day I wake up to leave a story for my girls to tell, right? That they're going to be able to tell with pride, right? And so I went to my office. So we were remote long before COVID called us to. And so, Carly, when I got to my office last week, and I thought about you because I had all of the things, right? Like, and very early in my career, I was chasing what society told me I had to chase in order to make supervision, in order to get a title. And I missed soccer games. I missed cheer. Like, I missed the things. Grateful that I had a village. But I missed the things chasing something that they kept moving the finish line. And I kept running harder trying to figure out, right? And so when I got to the office, I used to send my girls, because I didn't see them in the morning, amazing father, notes in their lunch, right? My daughter started doing that to me. And I had one that I put in my queue because she told me, I miss you in the morning. Like, now I'm going to get emotional.
I'm about to cry.
Right? Like, she was like, I miss you in the morning, because she was not seeing me. I'm on this road chasing this job. And I put that up in my cube to remind me, right? Like, something is greater for me. And it took me a long time to recognize what that shift was, but I paid attention to that, right? So I might miss an opportunity, but I will not miss seeing my girls in the morning one more time, right? And I'm grateful that I got to look back. I get to look back. They're still here, and I can pour into them differently. But not everybody's getting that chance. We're going to keep killing ourselves, sisters, chasing something that's not designed for us to be chased.
If I could speak to what you just said, Michelle, because like working the two careers, I was still, like, after a while, I was committed to being able to still take my kids to be involved in after school activities or extracurricular activities. So 2 of my young children play soccer. So it's like work in the morning, operate your business, get the kids to soccer practice, go to the soccer games on the weekend, and it's just like there's just this machine. So it's like I'm still not slowing down, still not taking any breaks, just adding more stuff on because I'm like I owe it to them. And it's and then I'm like, okay, I can't keep this up for like it's just not sustainable. So like my business coach had me go through an exercise, and probably Crystal challenged me with this at some point too.
Not
It's
surprised.
like writing out like what my goals are, like who do you want to, like what do you want to accomplish, and then taking a deep dive and looking at who do you need to be able to accomplish those things, and like what is that person, what type of habits do they have, what are they doing on a daily basis, and what are they not doing. So going through that exercise, I'm like I really identified the fact that I wanted to be present, and I'm like I want to have this big impact, but I'm like I almost feel like a fraud having a super big impact on the community, and my children don't feel my presence. So I'm like I have to make that shift and make sure they know that they are a priority. And really, since having just focused on one career, I really haven't, I mean, our lifestyle hasn't diminished any. I'm just not as tired.
Praise God. Oh,
And I'm more effective at the one career. Like,
Right.
I'm just being more effective at the things that I'm choosing to commit to.
And emotionally available, right?
That
For the
part.
folks that deserve that part of you.
And myself, like, you know, I actually have time where it is, I mean, I go and seek refuge in my office, which is funny. I have to get away from home, but I've been working from home for 2.5 years. So actually to go to the office does seem like a break. It's a change of scenery. So, I can go there and sit like all day and know that my kids are fine, and I don't feel guilty about it. Like this is new for me.
So about 3 years ago, we were sitting in Amazing Woman Entrepreneur meeting, and I said, everybody had a homework assignment, and it was to write out that thing that you want to do, your masterpiece, as I call it. Don't think about how it's going to happen. Don't think about how you're going to get there. Just write it out in its grandest form. You came back that next session and said you didn't do it because as you were writing it, that voice inside your head kept saying, who do I think I am that I can do this? So to see all that you have done since then, I absolutely celebrate you because you've done everything that you've set your mind out to do. And I'm so glad that you left the job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so to see that. But I tell you again, I asked you on this show because I was like, okay, I see she's doing all of this stuff. I'm a little worried. Like at some point, you're going to have to sit down because we can't do it all. And to go back and talk about this faith. So, okay, so this is some new information I'm about to share, and don't throw anything at me, right? So, and it's that faith. It's funny that you brought the thing up about not having anything in your office because I've never done that. A fork is all I ever had. And it was because I didn't like to eat with the plasticware or the forks in it. So a fork is all I had, and I have a thing about napkins, so a drawer full of napkins. That was it, right? And it always looked like. And I would have people ask me, well, how come there's nothing in your cubicle or nothing in your office? I said, because when it's time for me to go, I don't need a box. I'm good, and I can just walk out the door. But it's that constant, well, what if we leave? Will we be able to survive? Will we be able to make it? And I think when it's your time, nothing will keep you there. So I had been saying for, God, probably years at this point, but I know for the last 8-9 months, I need to leave my job. I need to leave my job, right? And I would get angry and complaining about the things that I had been complaining about again and again and again. But what I saw was it kept getting worse. And I finally got fed up. And I laid in my bed. This was a month and a half ago. I laid in my bed and I said, you know what? I quit. And, you know, we make decisions, but then we always need confirmation. Okay, God, I need you to let me know that this is about to be okay. And the peace that instantly came over me. And I literally laid in my bed giggling by myself, just giggling at the thought that I'm done. I don't have to do that anymore. And the biggest transition was, because I have all of this other stuff that I was already doing anyway, but the biggest transition was, oh, wow, now I got time. Mm-hmm. And it was like, because I would work all day. Well, I would work part of the day. I would work for my job, and then, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, I'm then working for Amazing Woman Network, AWN Cares, financial strategist, and then on the weekend, I probably should not have told her this though, because I could never go to train on Saturdays, because why? I'm doing all of this other stuff that I couldn't do during the day. But there's not been a day that I regret leaving, because of the impact and the legacy. I now get to focus on 100% that thing that I am supposed to be doing in my life. And I'm like, okay, God, you work it out. And things just continue to show up. But that's operating in that crazy level of faith that I have. But it just feels incredible to be able to say, I get to live my life the way that I truly want to live it, and I get to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Mm-hmm. And the people that I impact truly appreciate that.
100%.
Can't wait.
Oh, it's coming.
That faith is big, and like I'm still really learning how to lean into my faith and not worry. And it's more or less looking back at my life over the last 10, 15 years, and those moments where I'm like, I had some shouting matches with God, like I am afraid, I'm scared, like I've never felt so vulnerable, I've never felt so like out of control, like what's next? Like I have 4 children. I can't be out of control. I can't not know. And, when I reflect back, I'm like, God has just always made a way.
Every time.
And I'm like, so learning to trust, and it may not necessarily look like what I thought it was going to look like or how I designed it in my mind, but it's like, as long as I am following that path, following that voice, and just getting up and doing something every day, even if that something is relaxing and taking a moment to catch my breath, as long as I am doing that and just remaining diligent in what I feel like I'm being led to do, it hasn't failed. And like I said, our lifestyle hasn't changed. My children haven't starved.
Right?
None of those things that we worry about.
Right.
No, and they eat good too. Like my 6-year-old loves lobster and crab legs.
Wow, that's my Malcolm.
Yeah. So we invite you, Facebook, to start thinking about the ways in which you need to kill that myth around the strong Black woman. You're not required to be that. You're required to define for yourself the ways in which you need to show up that values who you are, and allow the world to get on board with that, right? And define for yourself, what is that legacy I want to leave the world, and what do I need to do in order to be present for that, right? Like I tell my girls all the time, in life, I may not make you rich. I'm not going to. Like, let's be clear, right? Like, I will buy the handbag, and I will leave you enough money to put me in the ground, and, right? Like, all of those things, right? Like, and
Right.
you will be able to have stories.
Yeah.
What's your story, Facebook? What is your story? And how are you showing up every single day to live into that gift? To lean in so that the little Black girls and Black boys that are coming behind us recognize that there's a different way to value who we are, and that it's not defined by society, that we are redefining for ourselves, right? Especially as Black women, because we birthed a nation, and we are responsible to think differently and to tell a different story, to disrupt the narrative that's currently out there about the way that we're required to show up. So do a little less if that's what's in your spirit to do. Challenge yourself to do a little more if that's in your spirit to do. Evaluate what real risk looks like for you, and be willing to do that. Be okay with that. Think about that, Facebook, and start holding yourselves accountable to wanting to show up and to be different. And so as we come to begin to the back end of our time together today, like, you have to check, again, I say this every week, check your tribe. Like you can't have her because she's mine, but you need a Krista Gunn in your life. Like, let's be clear, right? Like, and I think about the number of women that you've impacted. That with that kind of detail, you remembered a story from 3 years ago.
Oh.
And the number of women that you've touched since then talks about you living into your gift. Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised you left your job.
I know you're not.
I'm not surprised, right? Because you'll set yourself up and then lean on that faith to get you the rest of the way, right? And so when I think about what that looks like and how you've shared that time and time again, that it's okay, right? Like, success is going to come in the failure.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? If you have not failed, it's because you have not tried to push yourself. And so I'm grateful 1,000 times again for the way that you show up and you challenge us to own our amazing, right? And you give us script, ideas, and then space to be able to do that. And if we aren't checking who we're hanging out with, that's going to invite us to do a little better. Like, listen, you're just hanging out with a group of folks.
Mm-hmm. Let them go. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, let them go. When we talk about, you said it, we birthed a nation, and when we talk about those generational curses, I think that strong Black woman, a part of that, the survival part of that, is that generational curse that we just keep handing down, that we have to stop. And I think with us in this generation, we have to say, we're going to redefine what strong Black woman looks like. Mm-hmm. And I always say, it's that amazing woman. You get to decide what that looks like for you. And it doesn't matter what other people think. It really, because they're going to talk about you anyway, right? So it absolutely doesn't matter. You get to define it, and you get to walk it, and life will be better because you do. It just is. I want to give 1 second or a couple minutes to talk about our sponsor. AWN Cares is our sponsor for this entire month. And AWN Cares is actually the nonprofit side of the Amazing Woman Network. And one of our biggest programs is our Red Dot Bag campaign. And the Red Dot Bags, we give sanitary supplies to people in need. And just some statistics, 16.9 million people who menstruate live in poverty. A third of those individuals could not afford supplies last year, and a half of those individuals had to decide between food and sanitary napkins. Wow. Right. So we're having a supply drive all month long, and May 28th is Menstrual Hygiene Day, and we're having a Red Dot Bag packing party where we're packing bags. And these bags will be a little different than before, but it'll be enough that we're giving them to a school in Inkster, a school in Pontiac, and 2 schools in Detroit, and the bags will be enough to last them throughout the summer. And then with that note of encouragement. So our packing party is May 28th from noon to 3. Please go to awncares.org. Donate, RSVP, come out and help pack. We always have a good time. Tracy's bringing more food this time, so it will be fun. awncares.org. How much time do we have? Is it time for us to wrap up?
It is time to start winding this thing down. And before you do that,
ma'am.
right, like if you haven't had an opportunity to come and help pack bags, it is a good time, and we're doing it for a good cause. So please, mark your calendars, May 28th. It's going to be an amazing time for amazing women to come together and really think about how we can help the community, how we can help women who are in need. And Tracy Ritz.
Come on with some shrimp and grits.
You are on notice,
so you'll be
Tracy.
there, Miles. Right?
No.
And it becomes a good time. And the way that Tracy just showed up with the shrimp and grits one.
Right.
She was just like, I'm bringing food. And she just donated that to us for that day. And literally the pan was, empty when it was done. So yeah, please come out. We have a good time. It is, it will definitely be a good time for all. We laugh a lot. And last time we were able to pack 1,000 bags in like 1 hour. So come out. We do have stuff to do. And it's so crazy in a world with as much wealth as we have, that such a basic human right
Right.
just should not be an issue. So this is our effort to end period poverty, one red dot bag at a time.
I love it.
Absolutely. So this has been some incredible conversation. As always, I thank you. I celebrate you guys. Thank you to Miles, and thank you for welcoming us to the podcastic family. It has been great in studio. If you don't know Miles Dixon, you need to know him. His story is absolutely incredible, and what he does. If you have 5 minutes to talk to him about business, he will blow your mind. Thank you to our producer, Miss Kimberly Arnold, who it is a family affair around here. And my BFF, I couldn't think of a better person to co-host this show with me. She fuels me. And as I said before, you're definitely my she-wrote. Ladies, you all are incredible. Miss Carly, it's only going to be a matter of time before, the job is no more. Trust me. You are on your way out the door one way or another, because God will shut a door for you when you are not being obedient and doing what you're supposed to do. So to all our listeners, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. This is turning out to be more than I ever could have imagined it to be. Remember to always own, honor, and execute your amazing. Again, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. I am Crystal Gunn. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
Awesome. So listen, get ready. If you have enjoyed the series thus far, we are bringing our reasons to the table next week. Please join us. Are we next week?
We are next week, Miles.
We
Yes.
are next week, the Mother's Day edition, where Crystal and I get to bring in our reasons. So join us as you get to finally meet on camera Kimberly, Jasmine, and Niall. It's going to be some fun conversations.
Oh, boy.
It really does pour into us as we get to pour back into you what it means to have this conversation with mother and daughters. I am so excited. I am so blessed. Once again, Crystal, thank you for your obedience to your calling.
Kicking and screaming
Right?
sometimes.
Like your
but
obedience. I'm grateful that you continue to trust without even knowing the outcome yet, because God is going to bring us where we need to be every single time.
Every single time.
Beyond blessed to be able to share space with you. My name is Michelle Harper. I am a Black woman, and I absolutely, without apology, thank you, Judy Neal, for that, own my amazing. I'm excited to be able to close this conversation out with two dope women.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for being vulnerable and giving us, pulling back the cover, because we're going to change this narrative. We're going to kill what it means and redefine for ourselves. And thank you for sharing how you have done that. And I invite you in to close out. Carly.
Thanks for having me. My name is Carly Britton. I am a Black woman, and I own my amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. And I just want to take a moment to say that seeing Crystal walk in faith and how, this movement that she envisioned, and knowing how when I met her for the first time in her living room, I'm like, man, she's saying everything I've said to myself. I see so much of myself, but she is super dope. I'm like, okay, this is confirmation. And then just to see everything that you're doing and all the success you're having, it definitely makes me, trust.
Yes.
Trust. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I am Talisa Cohen. I am a Black woman, and I am owning my amazing.
Absolutely.
I love it, right? It's the process. It's the journey. Facebook, we're grateful to have you with us one more time. Please continue to check us out. We're only going to get better. It's only going to go up, because Crystal Gunn would have it no other way.
No other way. Next week is going to be hilariously awesome. You are not going to want to miss that. It is going to be awesome. Thank you guys so much. And absolutely have a fantastic rest of the day, and good night.
Good night.